Hi, everybody. Not safe for work tonight. If you're watching, I'm going to talk real dirty stuff. And unfortunately, there's no way around it when you're talking about a RICO trial and a sex trafficking trial, and you're talking about a defendant named P. Diddy. The very nature of free-coughs is dirty, birdie stuff, folks. So if you got kiddos in the room, I highly recommend off to bed, because we're going to talk some late-night stuff tonight. So what's so critical about this case is that Diddy's 10-year girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is the star witness for the prosecution. And today, look, she detailed a lot of stuff that is very prurient and it'll make a lot of headlines. Like, she detailed accusations that Diddy raped her when they broke up in 2018. She detailed names of escorts. She detailed all the dirty, gross stuff, right, about the free-coughs. And one of the escorts was actually on this show last night. So I'm going to show you another soundbite if you missed the show last night. But he was named in court today, but he was a guest on this show last night. So timing. But what I really want to drill down on tonight is what everybody's saying. Oh, wait, this isn't an abuse case. This is a RICO case. This is a sex trafficking case. So if you're really keen and you're listening between the lines, you can see the building blocks that the prosecution's making. And today I'm going to pull them all out and build them all up for you with Mark Geragos and really talk about what is actually happening in this courtroom that looks real bad for Diddy, other than just the dirty stuff. Okay? That's coming in a moment. Also, is there anything now that can get in the way of Eric and Lyle Menendez's freedom? You know, you probably heard late last night, this show broke the news. The judge has given them a resentencing, 50 to life, which under youthful offender sentencing means they are eligible now to get out. So it's up to the parole board. And then after that, if the parole board says yes, it's up to the governor. What kind of roadblocks? What exists that might actually stop the process? Like, there just might be something. And so I am going to talk to somebody who knows a lot about this. A guy who used to sentence people like Eric and Lyle to prison all the time. He was get tough on crime. That was this judge, get tough on criminals. He also happened to be a character witness in the hearing yesterday for Eric and Lyle. I am so excited about this interview. First of all, I love interviewing judges because it's so hard to get them. But this judge had never actually entered a courtroom to sit anywhere but the bench. Until yesterday, he was a witness. And so I've got lots to ask him about that and what he thinks might be a hiccup for the Menendez brothers. Then also, do you remember Becky Hill? If the name is familiar, it should be. She was a court clerk in Alex Murdaugh's trial. The one that was like in hot water for whispering on beacon off to the jury, saying that don't believe Alec, those crocodile tears. It did not cause a mistrial. I am still shocked to this day. I was betting the farm on that. Didn't cause a mistrial. However, here we are, and Ms. Becky has just landed herself 3 felony charges. What? So I ask you, does that mean that Alex just might get the do-over that he so desperately wants? We're going to talk about all of it in just a moment, but let me start here. Nothing could have prepared Cassie Ventura for the wrenching and draining and excruciating 2 days that she just spent on the witness stand, testifying against her one-time love, Sean Diddy Combs. But the next 2 days are going to make the last 2 look like a picnic. She's about to undergo a cross-examination by Puff Daddy's lawyers. And 9 months pregnant or not, it just may seem worse than childbirth. Since she took the stand on Tuesday, she basically has helped the prosecutors lay out a case against P. Diddy that paints him as a brutal domestic abuser with a sexual kink beyond the pale. Yeah, we heard it. We got it. But what she's really done that's so much more important and so much worse for Diddy is that she has painted him as a sex trafficker and a man guilty of racketeering, the very things that he's charged with. And if his lawyers don't come out swinging, P. Diddy could spend the rest of his life in lockup. So yeah, the stakes are high in this cross-examination of Cassie. At the heart of her testimony, she was claiming that she was an unwilling participant in Diddy's twisted and demanding freak-offs, sex orgies, where she was being sexed mostly. She said that he forced her to hire the male escorts and fly them to the free cuffs. Very key, because trafficking requires you to, somebody needs to pay, get you across state lines, okay? And that Diddy used his own staff members, she says, to prep the rooms and get the drugs if Diddy didn't get those drugs himself. When she wasn't in the mood or when she wanted out, Cassie says he beat her into submission and wouldn't let her leave. These are all very important things I'm going to get to in just a moment. I'm not just giving you color here. I'm giving you really important building blocks for the prosecution. Cassie said he'd also threatened to release videos of those orgies, to pressure Cassie to stick around. And she said Diddy was the boss of it all, the director of the free cuffs, where a lot of this illegal stuff was going on, she said. She told the jury, quote, "I feared for my career. I feared for my family. It's just embarrassing. It's horrible and disgusting. No one should do that to anyone." Today in the federal courtroom, she named and identified 13 of those escorts with whom she had sex on video and for Diddy's pleasure, she said. One of those escorts was Jonathan Colby, who happened to be a guest on this show just last night. Colby said he was Diddy's, quote, sex slave as far back as 2018, but that nobody believed him. And to be fair, it may have been because he said it to the police after opening fire at a South Florida golf resort. Yesterday, though, in an exclusive jailhouse interview, Colby repeated his story to NewsNation producer Allison Weiner. And he described what a freak off actually looked like from inside the room.
Candles, sensual atmosphere, lights off. He would sit in a corner in a sofa, watch and masturbate. And he'd say, he'd tell her, give her instructions what to do to me. Perform oral sex, rub baby oil. Then he'd tell me rub baby oil, perform oral sex, and then have sex.
How many times did you have sex with Cassie?
Probably like 15 sessions.
And what did you get paid? How much?
It would be like 800 each time.
Another bombshell today when Cassie testified that after she and Diddy finally broke up, she says Diddy raped her in 2018 in her own living room. This was around the time she began dating her now husband, Alex Fine. And yes, Mr. Fine was in the courtroom to hear all of it. By now, almost everybody has seen that infamous hotel hallway beating video, right? But today, the court released more of it. And before I show it, I do want to give you a warning. It's quite disturbing. It can be very triggering. So, fair warning. We're going to roll it. We got a picture, basically, of Cassie here. And she eventually, after being knocked and thrown about, she eventually is stumbling down a hallway. I mean, this is just intense, right? This is finally from the U.S. District Court, by the way, not from a TV channel, CNN. So this is important because these are angles we hadn't seen up until now. Again, Cassie had a black eye and a bloody lip. And she said she ended up that way because she was beaten by Diddy right here in this moment because she had escaped his freak-off. She says she fled to her apartment after this and that she took selfies of her bruises, which, by the way, she said she had to cover with makeup 2 days later at a movie premiere, this movie premiere. This is her. She said she was thick with makeup to get rid of the black eye, but she said some of the bruises on her body were still quite visible, especially the ones on her inner thighs, she said. And while the judges ruled that the freak-off videos are not going to be seen by the public, today the jury saw 5 screen grabs of the freak-off videos. And at least one juror, a man, looked away. But here's the thing. Diddy is not charged with rape. Diddy is not charged with domestic abuse or drug offenses. He is charged with sex trafficking and racketeering, violating the RICO Act, which means the feds are trying to prove that he ran a criminal enterprise using his staff, his money, his power to indulge his own appetites at any cost. Let's unpack some of this with my friend Mark Geragos, defense attorney and co-host of the hit podcasts Reasonable Doubt and Two Angry Men. Okay, Geragos, first I have to ask right off the bat, nobody seems to have been able to get this from you. Are you or aren't you a member of Diddy's defense team in any way?
Actually, I thought I was here to talk Menendez, so I'll avoid that question. So next.
Okay, you can't answer that question. You are here actually to, is it okay to talk Diddy?
Did I stun you? My preference is to not mix and match, only because I don't think, Ashleigh, that I've done anything nationally since the brothers got the news yesterday. So I know how much you've been following their saga, and I really wanted to kind of focus on them. I thought that was their moment, if you will.
I have that planned for you, my dear friend Mark, but it's just, it's a few questions down from the Diddy Biddy. I have to talk Diddy for, can we just have, I want to get some clarity from you because I know you understand this stuff.
Do you know why I love you? I do, and I will tell you, yes, because you never stop. Also because, you know, a lot of times when I'm in court and I say something, even as recently as yesterday, the Menendez case, and the judge sustains an objection, basically the move is, and then gives you one of the hand movements that's like, move on, you know what I mean? So I'm used to that. I'm trying to give you that.
You're trying to give me that. Yes,
yesterday?
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I won't ask you because this little nebulous, I don't want to mention whether I'm on Diddy's team or not because everybody's been playing the guessing game. Were you a jury consultant or were you on the team?
Look, I don't hire myself out as a jury consultant. I have been very upfront about the fact that my daughter is the one who gave the opening statements, and I have known Sean and currently represent Sean in a number of matters and have represented Sean for years. I mean, that's no secret. And I consider him a friend, and I'm not going to abandon a friend. So, you know, I've seen kind of the ups and downs of the last year, and I get it.
Okay. So you know I'm not a lawyer. This is why I always lean very heavily on you and others to help me navigate through some of the intricacies of these cases. But I've got to be honest, I don't know that I like what I'm seeing out on the TV with a lot of legal analysts who say there's nothing to see here. Because I'll be honest with you, as I've been watching the prosecution's case, I am seeing them lay out a lot of very specific building blocks. And here's where I'm going to show you I've done my research and then ask you if I've made a mistake. For RICO, you got to prove at least 2 predicate acts, right? 2 criminal acts over the course of 10 years. And these are some of the predicate acts that qualify. So 2 out of this list: assault, forced labor, bribery, distribution of controlled substance, extortion, kidnapping, witness tampering, dealing in obscene matter, obstruction of justice, slavery, sex trafficking, drug trafficking. And in so many of the details that I've been hearing, Mark, I'm seeing stuff that matches all this. The bag of money allegedly given to the security guard at the hotel saying, don't say anything, keep this quiet. I mean, that's obstruction of justice. That's bribery. The assault stuff that we're seeing, the black eye, the hotel video, that's it. Well, I got 2 right there. Where am I wrong?
Well, look, I'll take a step back. Everything that you say you can, I believe, could be tethered to or should be tethered to what the evidence is. I don't believe that the way that you've characterized it, and this is part of the problem with federal district court trials. You get kind of a report and it says various things and it ticks off various things. A lot of the nuance and a lot of the exact testimony is not what's being tethered to. If you were to see a transcript, for instance, of something that was said, I will give you an example. I saw a transcript, not in this case, but in another case, where somebody had said about a payment, was that payment or was there any investigation going on at that time? And they said, no. What was the payment for? Payment was for something else. That takes you out of an obstruction or anything else. So I don't know what the transcript says. As I freely said to your producer today, I was not in court and I'm still in LA. And absent somebody sitting in the courtroom who actually has taken verbatim notes, it's very difficult to say, oh, it can be horrific. Mind you, the opening statements kind of invited that. You're going to hear stuff. You're going to not like people. You and I have talked about that for years in other kinds of cases, where you'll do an opening statement and you will concede that your clients may be bad people or jerks or mean, but it's not necessarily criminal. And so I think you have to be very careful before you say, this is horrible, oh, therefore there's a building block.
Oh, listen, horrible schmorrible. There's a lot of stuff that's in there that's gross, and I think Diddy will struggle to ever get a reputation back if he beats this rap, period. But the dangerous stuff that could put him away forever, I feel these were some building blocks, and that at the head of the enterprise, he's using staff members to get these free coughs, which are, dens of illegal activity. He's using staff members to set them up, which is the man directing the illegal activity. All that, to me, screams RICO. Now, I guess it's all up to the corroborating witnesses. If people are going to come in, and it won't just be he said, she said, but if the jury can hear more from others and be convinced. Now, like you said, you wanted to talk Menendez, and I know you have a hard stop in 3.5 minutes.
I'll finish. Well, one more point, though. Also, it's tough. We haven't gotten across yet. So what I always counsel in these cases, you and I have talked about this, and you're usually extremely good at this. You don't jump to conclusions just based on the direct. How many times have you seen in a case, I know that it's virtually every case I'm in, the direct, you walk away, you say, how are they ever going to get over this? And I've talked to jurors who say the same thing. And then they hear the cross and they go, oh my goodness, I really jumped the gun.
There it is,
so
yeah.
I would counsel against it. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
now
I'm with you on
Menendez.
that. Karen Reed was a great example of that. The prosecution opened in Karen Reed, and I thought she's done for. And then, the cross-examinations were great,
and the
defense case will be electrifying. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk
Alan
Menendez.
Jackson was a
I'm
perfect
still going
example of that.
Yeah, is he ever great? Okay, so
let me
Menendez,
tell you something.
tell me what could stand in the way. This
Ashleigh.
all looks like it's going to work. Go ahead.
Oh, I will tell you, I don't know that it's been widely reported. I saw it today. Yesterday, a little bit before this time, they were still, the brothers, Eric and Lyle, were still facing life without parole. So their fate was with the governor, basically, if the judge didn't do anything. Well, as you know and you reported, the judge did do something. He struck the special circumstance, and now because it's 50 to life, as you said, and they were youthful offenders, they're immediately eligible for parole. But as luck would have it for them, they had already had what was called a clemency hearing set for less than a month from now, for June 13th. Now, the governor today, in a press conference, unrelated, and you may have the tape, unrelated to them, but was asked about it, he floated the idea that June 13th clemency proceeding could be switched to, and may be switched to, a parole hearing. So that would be light years ahead of where you normally would be, and could accelerate their release to clearly before the 4th of July.
Super interesting. Just tell me, because I know I've got, I think a minute and a half until you got a hard stop. What could possibly trip up the process now? What could the parole board possibly see that would have them vote no?
I don't know. I've read the much discussed CRAs. I've read their what's called the C files. For people who don't know, the C file is the correctional file that is kept in their case for 30 years. And it's got everything in there. It's got confidential information that the inmates, the brothers, didn't even know about. It's got information for everything they've accomplished. And as the judge said yesterday, he's never seen such a remarkable record. And he was really taken aback and persuaded by the correctional officers who said, not only are these guys rehabilitated, I would have these guys come and live in my neighborhood. That's some pretty powerful evidence. So, I'm fingers crossed, cautiously optimistic, all the usual platitudes. But if there ever was anybody, and we argued this yesterday, who deserves to be rehabilitated and paroled, it's these guys. Mind you, I think also, speaking of guests on your program, you had X-rated at one point. We called him as a witness yesterday. He was unbelievable. I mean, there were people, grown people, adults in that courtroom crying by the time he got through with his testimony. When he talked about going to Menendez University and having lived separately with Eric and Lyle and learning from them and refocusing his attitude and his insight, all from them. He says, I graduated from Menendez University. I've been out for 7 years and I don't have as much as a traffic citation. It was extremely moving.
Yeah. And he's very successful. I did a podcast with him as well. He was on this show, too. You're right. He was a great witness. 1 minute over your out time, but that's because your last answer was long. So stay close, Mark Geragos. Good luck with the flight. I hope you make it. And we'll talk soon. I appreciate this.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Always good to see you.
Always good to see you as well. Okay, so we touched on that, right? The Menendez story. But before that, we were talking Diddy, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that today we reached out to Sean Combs' attorneys. We requested a statement from them, but we haven't heard back. And I always say this, when you're in trial, I wouldn't even answer anybody from the media because you're just so incredibly busy. So no slight to them that they couldn't make any kind of statement back to us. But I do want you to know we did reach out. Okay, so we had a little soupçon, right? A little bit about Menendez because that's, Mark Geragos is their lawyer. I couldn't just have him talk about Diddy. I had to get a little, touch on the Lyle and Eric business. But that's because also we're doing this next block. They had their biggest win in 35 years behind bars. And if they do, in fact, walk out of the California prison, which still is not a guarantee, a tough-on-crime judge will be high on their list of thank you calls. Not the judge who made them suddenly eligible for parole yesterday. No, I'm talking about the one who testified on their behalf yesterday, something he had never, ever done before. I also have a sneak peek, a real peek of the visual of that hearing that we have an exclusive image of it. You will see it right after the break. And that judge joins me next. Okay. First, we heard Eric and Lyle Menendez would be home by last Thanksgiving. And then we heard by Christmas. Then we heard by Easter. But any timeline that you hear now just got a lot more credible after the judge in their case said last night that they are officially eligible for parole, which means it's now up to the California Parole Board. And if they say that the brothers should walk, well, then the whole thing ends up on the governor's desk for a thumbs up or thumbs down. So what are the odds that something could kneecap their chance at freedom? Jonathan Colby is a retired California judge who, by his own description, was tough on crime and tough on criminals. But yesterday, during the resentencing hearing, he took the witness stand for the first time in his life to testify on behalf of letting the brothers out of prison. And tonight we can show you this exclusive picture of what that hearing actually looked like. It was closed to the public, but because the judge took a screen grab while he testified remotely, we can now see what it actually looked like. If you look at the bottom left-hand side, you can notice very clearly that those are the Menendez brothers. They appeared from the Donovan prison in San Diego, dressed in their blue prison jumpsuits. It's Eric on the left, it's Lyle there on the right. They sit side by side listening to the testimony throughout the whole hearing. And they heard from character witnesses, 5 of them. One of those character witnesses was Judge Colby, who is now live with me. What a treat. Oh, Judge Colby. Your sister Jamie Colby is a fabulous person through and through and a terrific broadcaster. So let's start there. So I'm assuming that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and it's great to have you. I love speaking with judges. It's such a rarity. And this is an interview that I was so hoping to get because there you were yesterday, a key player as a character witness. How did you end up in all of this?
It's a very interesting journey, Ashleigh. After retiring as a judge, as a full-time judge, I wanted to continue public service, and I wanted to not forget the forgotten people of the world, the elderly in nursing homes, the people dying in hospice, special needs kids, kids dying of cancer, and incarcerated people, which I knew practically nothing about, yet sentenced thousands of people to prison. And I didn't really know how to do that. So 10 years ago, I got a golden retriever, a therapy dog, named Bailey first and now Grace. And we go to the most maximum security prisons in addition to the other folks. And we interact and we bring compassion and kindness and love in a non-judgmental way. And in that mission over the last 10 years, I met Lyle and Eric, in addition to many other high-profile and unknown criminal convicts that were serving life and some serving death. And we interacted with our dog groups at the prison. And I got to see and speak and mentor Lyle and Eric over this time period. And that's how I met them.
Lest anybody think that, you know, any defense attorney can line up a group of character witnesses for the most part. You were actually not a volunteer in this particular case. This was not something that you lined up to do. How did you end up in that courtroom?
Well, I was subpoenaed by court order to come, and my goal was to assist Judge Jessup in his determination from my personal observations of what I've seen Lyle and Eric do over the years, including the time where they didn't know that they may ever not die in prison. It was only recently that they found that out, yet all their goodness and acts of kindness to other inmates and the programs they've set up and the education that they've received with their college degrees and setting up hospice programs at the maximum security penitentiary to care for the elderly. All that was done in my view, I've never seen in the tens of thousands of inmates that I've met over the 10-year period, I've never seen anyone do something so altruistic. So
can I ask you, I keep wondering, Judge, what's going to be the hiccup to the brothers gaining the support of the parole board? And I keep coming back to what DA Nathan Hochman has sort of had in his craw, and that is that Nathan Hochman said the brothers never copped to what he said was a lie, that they feared imminently for their life at the moment they pulled the trigger, killing their parents, which is legally very important, right? Because that can get you to second-degree murder. That can change everything. That takes you from lying in wait. It takes you from premeditated. And Nathan Hochman says they never did that. They never said, we lied when we said we were in imminent fear of our lives. Do you think that's something, that one thing could come back to bite them when it comes to the parole board?
I'm certain that it's possible, but I'm more than certain that there's so many good things that they will advocate for themselves. In that hearing, they need to advocate to that parole board. They're not going to be having witnesses come. I won't come. Jail guards who like them won't come. And if they could advocate enough good things, and maybe they will tell things they've never told when they go to that parole clemency board. I think they were as authentic yesterday when they gave their allocution to Judge Jessup as they are with me on a personal basis. I don't think there were any errors or lawyer-written drafts of what they should say. That is exactly who they were, and it's compelling to me as someone who is considered a tough, in the past, sentencing judge.
Quick question, and I got to make it quick. I only have 30 seconds left. But I remember talking to a parole board member in New York about the parole hearings for Mark David Chapman, who killed John Lennon. He got 20 to life, and he's been denied 13 times for parole. And one of those parole board members said, who wants to be the one who let John Lennon's killer out. Is it possible that Gavin Newsom may face that same kind of pressure? Who wants to be the one that let the Menendez brothers out?
It's interesting, and quickly, we work with Sirhan. Sirhan, he's at that prison with Lyle and Eric too, and he was granted parole, and the governor didn't grant it for whatever reason. It's certainly possible, but I do think there's an outswelling of support from many young people in America who look at what is being stated and feel compelled that 35 years, with all the good service they've done and the change of law, that they wouldn't have been sentenced to life without parole if they had committed the crime now, is compelling.
Judge Jonathan Colby, this has been such a treat. Thank you so much for your candor. I look forward to speaking with you again, I hope, as this process continues. And please say hello to Jamie.
I will. Thank you, Ashleigh.
I keep thinking there just cannot be another story about the Alex Murdaugh case, right? Nothing there left to draw me in. But just when I thought I was out, along comes Becky Hill to pull me back in the words of Al Pacino. Becky was the court clerk in Alex's trial who got into trouble for warning jurors not to be fooled by Murdaugh's tears on the stand. Alex's lawyer said it should have been a mistrial, but the judge disagreed, and it wasn't. And in the end, those jurors did convict him. But now Alex's lawyers may just have a little more ammo, because court clerk Becky Hill has just been arrested and charged with 3 felonies: perjury, obstruction of justice, and misconduct in office. By the way, she was booted from that office after an ethics investigation determined that she'd misused her position to enrich herself by promoting her book. Murdaugh's attorneys are PO'd, and today they released this statement saying, quote, "We are aware of the charges filed against Becky Hill, and while these developments are serious, they are not surprising. We have long raised our concerns about her conduct during and after the trial, and this arrest further underscores the need to protect the integrity of the judicial process. Every defendant is entitled to a fair and impartial trial, and we look forward to Alex Murdaugh finally getting that fair treatment." So I want to know what that means. Does it mean a new trial? Is this still a possibility, given, Becky's going to need her own jury? Stay tuned, folks. That's all for tonight. Cuomo's next.